Hello, I'm Graham Elwood, and welcome to another episode of The Church of Batman. I want to read an op-ed piece that was in the January 6th issue of the Los Angeles Times. It was written by Stephen Marchi. It says, "The left has a post-truth problem true. It's called comedy." Okay. In the waning days of 2016, liberal late-night hosts took to meeting with their counterparts in the conservative entertainment complex. The Daily Show's Trevor Noah argued with The Blaze's Tommy Lahren about the nature of race in America. Full Frontal's Samantha Bee interviewed right-wing radio host Glenn Beck for a summit on nonpartisan decency. The power of these segments supposedly was the reconciliation of unlikely opposites, but how opposite have these two groups really been? The post-truth condition in which Trumpism has flourished has its roots in left-wing satire. So we're going to blame comedians. Got it. 2016 was the year when the line between parody and reality blurred to the point of vanishing. Fake news spread through social media as swiftly as it did thoroughly. By the end of October, a PPP poll found that 40% of Donald Trump supporters in Florida thought Hillary Clinton was an actual demon. Who could make up anything crazier than that? Post-fact life is funny, but not ha-ha funny. Everything has become a joke, and so nothing is anymore. But satire swallowed the news first. The point of origin was probably Jon Stewart's legendary appearance on Crossfire in 2004, in which he claimed that the high-volume political debate program was existentially evil rather than in error. It's, quote, "It's not so much that it's bad as it's hurting America," said Jon Stewart on that show. When the host brought up Stewart's softball questioning of political figures, he used satire as an alibi. "My point is this," Stewart said. "If your idea of confronting me is that I don't ask hard-hitting enough news questions, we're in bad shape, fellows." Stewart put himself in an ideal position. He was a moral arbiter who could determine what was hurting America while he took absolutely no responsibility himself. He knew better than the journalist, but he was not subject to the rules. He was just an entertainer. But he wasn't. While Crossfire soon died, The Daily Show went on to become a regular source of news as USA Today. Okay, this is what I want to talk about, this section here. Because I remember when... And it says in 2009, a Time magazine poll declared Stewart the most trusted news anchor on the air. I remember around 2008 or 9, somewhere in there, I remember watching CNN, and they said that most young people were getting their news from Jon Stewart's The Daily Show, and they were all just flabbergasted by this. And there's a hint of that in this, so this is actually blaming comedians, but the CNN, the mainstream media, when they heard that, there was a little hint of this, like, oh, these kids today, they don't even watch the news, they just watch Comedy Central. And what this jackass and the CNN and the MSNBC and the Fox News idiots have missed is the corporate media is awful. People are looking anywhere for something real. It's gotten so bad that we have to go to Comedy Central for news. Like, literally. It's not comedians' fault. Comedians didn't make this happen. I'll give you a quick little history lesson, Steve. So news outlets, news divisions of TV networks didn't have to turn a profit, meaning they didn't need to get good ratings. So like the CBS News division, so like a Walter Cronkite or somebody like that, they didn't need good ratings. So a regular TV show, a cop show, whatever, a drama, sitcom, they need good ratings because the higher the Nielsen ratings, the more the ad departments of TV networks can charge for ad revenue for the TV commercials that you watch. So when giant corporations took over TV and radio and in the 80s, they said they had to be profitable. This changed things. This changed things a lot. Like there was a big in the 60s, 50s and 60s there was a big flap over, like, you know, if an auto industry, like when Ralph Nader went after the auto industry for being unsafe in the 60s and 70s. mainly 60s, I believe. So, you know, if the auto company is buying ad time during the news, then they could possibly influence and say, hey, don't cover that story. This was a bit early on when these guys could smoke on TV and cigarette companies could buy ad time on TV. So there was always sort of a gray, but there was a fair amount of regulation. There was a definite attempt to try to separate that. So when the corporations bought up all the media, and currently 6 multinational conglomerates own about 95% of all major media. It's corporate news. It's not liberal news. It's corporate. It's corporate news. So it's gotten so, and so what happened when you had to then make your news profitable, so you had crazy stories or the sex scandal or a celebrity thing that was on, like, you know, the back, or like the in the middle of the newspaper that the TV wouldn't even cover, or maybe the entertainment beat would cover it. All of a sudden that became the lead story. And all these things like a sex scandal and all this stuff got so sensationalized. And it used to just be a little throwaway thing, and the news became ridiculous, and everyone started to realize this in the last 10 years or so, that the news is just ridiculous. They're not giving us real information. They're not giving us real facts. They want to keep us scared and distracted. That's why we are chasing the Kardashians or whatever, Kanye West or whatever crazy story like that. Or even now recently we've got Trump, so he's tweeting, you know, he was all mad last month about the cast of Hamilton. The cast of Hamilton didn't do anything rude to Mike Pence. Some people in the audience booed him. The cast of Hamilton was very gracious and was saying, look, we have a diverse show and a diverse cast, and we hope you take this into the White House. And Trump is tweeting about the cast of Hamilton, we need to ban them or whatever. Why was he doing that? Because he just had to pay, like, I think $24 million in a lawsuit for his fake university. So it's always this distraction. And comedians good comedians, as Lenny Bruce said, have built-in bullshit detectors. That's why you trust Jon Stewart or Trevor Noah or now Samantha Bee, because they're not bullshitting you. I'm not saying they're perfect or they're, you know, flawless, but they're not bullshitting you. I don't know what's paying you at the LA Times, what your agenda is. And the LA Times does some good coverage and stuff like that, but I can't trust anybody. Watch any news program. Watch Meet the Press. See who's buying ad time during Meet the Press. You know, and these multinational conglomerates also own weapons of mass destruction. The military-industrial complex is fueling all of this misdirection, because if you really paid attention to how the banks and the oil industry and the military-industrial complex are running everything, you would see that this is bullshit, and blaming comedians is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Boy. So, he goes in and said, you know, there's one point in here that I actually agree with. So, satire, like fake news, creates a sense of community through rejection. It delights in tearing down institutions, but it is useless at constructing them. Jonathan Swift said that satire was a mirror in which viewers discovered everybody's face but their own. Its pleasure is the pleasure of othering. The act is inherently tribal as well as political. Social media exacerbates the tribalism. Now, I agree with that. Part of the problem we have here in this country is this sense of tribalism. And it's my team versus your team. And no one wants to take responsibility for their part in things. So, the shitty media, we can all complain about it, but what is our part in it? Our part in it is, like, I canceled my cable. I don't want to give those cable companies my money. I just don't. You might want cable, and that's fine, or there's some show you like, that's fine. But then sift through the news. Have your own bullshit detector. Ask why this story is being told. Ask why we aren't learning. How come there's been very little about the basically illegal war in Yemen that Obama's been doing that's with the Saudis? It's basically a proxy war against Iran. How come we haven't been, how come the major media hasn't talked about that? How in the media, major media, like, comedians didn't create Donald Trump. the head of CBS said during the primaries. He goes, I don't like Donald Trump, but he's good for ratings. So we're going to keep putting him out there. I remember watching, they had Bernie Sanders was giving a speech, and they cut away from Bernie Sanders to go to an empty podium because Donald Trump was going to speak there. The mainstream corporate media helped make this guy. They could have just said, he's a wingnut. We want to get at the real issues here. They put him out there and put him because he was good for the news. He's good for the news. He's good clickbait. And now he's going to be president, so now you have to cover him at this point. So don't blame comedians for this shit. But what I like talking about here on Church of Batman is what can we do? Pay attention. Those clickable stories that like celebrity weight loss, or there's just like a picture of boobs or whatever, there's something, don't click on those because those clicks register, and read a full story through. You know, one of the reasons I subscribe to the LA Times, despite op-eds like this, I'm not going to agree with everything they do, but I want to support a local newspaper because, you know, after the movie Spotlight came out, a friend of mine pointed out the fact that a local newspaper, the Boston Globe, uncovered the Catholic Church sex scandal. So we need to support local news, and so support local news and find your news sources elsewhere. Do a little research. I know you're busy and everything like that, but you're coming here. So I appreciate the fact that you're coming to YouTube, where I'm going to spend 10 minutes on an article at a time, right? You watch, it's a quick thing, it's a sound bite, there's a clicker along the bottom, and how are we going to really know what's real and what isn't? So I'm going to try to sift through it for you and do your own research. And blaming comedians, yeah, that's the comedians created Donald Trump, not the 6 corporations that run the world. This is Graham Elwood for the Church of Batman. Click the like that's below and hit the subscribe, and then also you can share through all these great social media. If you have any news stories you want me to cover, I'm at Graham Elwood on Twitter, at Graham Elwood on Instagram, and if you go to facebook.com/Graham Elwood Comedy, that is my Facebook fan page. Email me through there. Like that page and email me through there, and if you find a cool story you want me to cover it, I will. You guys are awesome. Stay gold, Gotham.